Hello everyone, welcome again to season 3 of Diaspora Life Show. In this episode, we launched our webinars meant to bring together groups in the diaspora and the business community from Kenya. The theme for this webinars is Kenyan Diaspora Investing at Home. Today, we host Kenyans living in Canada who are members of Kenyan Canadian Association. Welcome.
Thank you, Bwana Chris. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming together this morning or this evening back in Kenya. I would like first to talk about the fact that we've been able to meet despite the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a showcase that this pandemic is not going to stop us. And I'm happy that the Kenyans here in diaspora, especially in Canada, they are still thinking about investing back at home. First of all, Kenyan Canadian Association is a federal not-for-profit, and we seek to address issues that are affecting the marginalized Canadians, especially those of Kenyan origin. And we also deal with the Black community and the visible minorities while assisting the newcomers. We have a lot of newcomers currently who've been held up here. And we also have a lot of international students who are here in Canada. So those are the groups and the people that we are trying to help. KCA also, I would like to mention, has a grassroots network across Canada. We have 18 regions across the country. And here in Ontario, the fact that it's a very vast province, and arguably 70% of all the Kenyans are here. According to the mission in Canada, the basic statistics, we probably have around 10,000 to 20,000 Kenyans living here, and that can testify. It's a testimony that we have a very large number of Kenyan in diaspora here, who actually would be a very good avenue for the real estate players in Kenya.
At this time, I'll welcome the global chair of the Diaspora Network, Dr. Shem Ochodo. Shem is very key because, like I said, he's as the diaspora, he's our eyes on the ground. The reason why we have Shem, and I'm happy that he's participating today, is because some of us, as you all know, may not be able to travel to Kenya. So even if we buy property, we need to have somebody we trust, an organization that we trust that can act and speak on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Chris, Ephraim, Jael, for hosting us. Yes, indeed, we have a secretariat in Nairobi that works very closely with partners in the real estate sector, in the financial sector, and others. And they're able to advise on what we would call partners of choice. So realtors of choice, Optiven, HF, and the others that we work with. These are organizations that we certain are credible and can do a good job. And when they tell you something, you can trust their word. So actually sometime next year, we hope we'll be publishing regularly what we call, whether it's bankers or banks of choice, real estate companies of choice. These would be organizations that are curated so that when you have trouble, if they can't sort you out, a number of them would sort you out directly. If they can't, then the KDA Secretariat in Nairobi would be able to talk to them and have you sorted out. Having said that, I should pay tribute knowing that Ontario is hosting us. Dr. Matunda Nyanchama, nearly 30 years ago, we worked together to start Kenya Community Abroad, getting Kenyans across the globe. Then I was in the UK/US, and teaming up with our colleagues at MIT then and in Finland, we had what was called KenyaNet, the first effort that got a number of Kenyans to communicate through internet. Internet was just evolving then. Fast forward to now, Kenya Diaspora Alliance is a federation of 44 diaspora organizations. Two of them actually in Canada. I was hoping that Pauline Mwangi would be in the house. She should be joining. And the others are in different parts of the world. I noticed Francis Opondo just joined, outgoing secretary of KINS. KINS is Kenyans in Nigeria secretary. So we have these 44 in different parts of the world with a combined membership of 250,000 Kenyans. May sound a lot, but if you consider that that's less than 10% of the 3 million, we still have a lot of work to do to reach out to the other 3 million Kenyans almost, or 2.7 million Kenyans who we haven't touched. Having said that, we have a number of arms or wings, if you may. We have KDA Women's Group, which is under formation for the ladies. We have Diaspora Youth Council for the young people. We have DICL, Diaspora Investment Club. That's the one that sits in this space we are talking today, with investments in diverse areas, including agribusiness, real estate, stock, securities exchange, and tech innovation. And then we also have KWA, KDA Welfare Association, for bereavement and the like. But more interestingly, recently with COVID, we have Diaspora COVID Task Force. If time permitted, Dr. Shiro is co-chair, co-convening that with Rosemary Musumba. Rosemary is in New York, could tell us a little, because you can't address anything now without talking about COVID, Chris, because that's the new normal.
That's true.
Having said that, we also partner with a number of organizations, and I've mentioned some of them. I'm glad they're in the house, so I don't need to repeat. We partner with about 40 major companies in diverse areas. We have every year Kenya Diaspora Homecoming Convention, which we are escalating this year to Africa continent level. Last December, we had 800 participants from 54 countries. Eugene Wamalwa's Honorable CS Devolution was our chief guest. Then Cecily Kariuki, Honorable CS, former CS Health, was keynote, because we are addressing the big four and diaspora. Universal health coverage was a major one. And then we were also addressing the other areas as well. This year, the AU, Africa Union, heads of state did compliment Kenya and our president in particular for the good work Kenya is doing with diasporas, and we take a little bit of that pie and credit, and tasked Kenya to convene the first Africa Diaspora Summit. So had it not been for COVID, we would be running up and down working on that, and we still plan to have it in December, 8th to 10th December, a 3-day event, Africa Diaspora Summit / Symposium. Ours was meant to be symposium, but we've initiated conversations with the concerned government offices so that we could work together. But yes, for us, it was reassuring for the AU at the highest level to compliment Kenya for that role.
Let's come back to Sir George Washuri. I don't need to introduce you, George, because, like I said, you're part of the diaspora anyway. Many people don't even know that you live in Kenya. They think at times you live around the world. You're the only Kenyan who lives in the, what they call the cloud. Yeah. I really appreciate the role that you play in the diaspora. Your personal advice to Kenyans living abroad. The reason I wanted to have you on this panel today as we kick off this is because, like you know, Kenyans in diaspora have issues around trust when it comes to investing at home. Many of them will tell you that they've been conned of their hard-earned money because of they rely on relatives and unscrupulous business people. You've done this, you've done it successfully. Please speak to us about why it's very important that people invest at home. And again, just briefly outline why you think trust is very important.
Wow, thank you, Chris, for this forum. And of course, I really like the title of the forum, Kenyan Canadian Diaspora, Invest at Home. I think this is very, very important because in comparison, we have many investors coming from North America, and the Canadians, Kenyans in Canada. I'm happy that the President, Ephraim Mwaura, is doing something to encourage them, to inspire them to come back home and invest right here in Kenya, because as they say that people are coming from different directions, coming and rushing to Kenya, as Dr. Shem Ochodo has said, and we need to encourage people in Canada. And I'm happy that Ephraim Mwaura is doing it. So asante sana. And of course, Dr. Shem has been very, very crucial in terms of guiding the diaspora, and he has been able to bring many real estate companies together, talk about investment right here in Kenya. And if I was the president, I think I could have appointed him as the Minister of Trade. He's doing an amazing job. And of course, our host, Jael Achieng, we really appreciate. Thank you for supporting these brothers and sisters. Somebody said a leader cannot lose light. You know, a cado cannot lose light because of leading others. So, Jael, you are doing an amazing job. So, asante sana. And of course, our very own Dr. Wangusi. Wangusi is known to us, so he's a very, very resourceful person in the private sector. And we are very, very happy for this particular forum. And of course, very quickly, there are a lot of things happening, especially in the industry of real estate. We have seen a lot of activities happening in digitization, especially in our 53 registries. The issue of buying assets is becoming easier. Property is becoming easier because you can be able to monitor your transactions online. You know, if you're transferring a property, you can be able to get SMS from the registry to tell you where is the status. And we are happy that the government is doing something. And of course, county governments are also doing a lot. You know, there are a lot of discussions, especially in the issues of titles. Remember before we used to have, you know, you go buy land, you process titles, the freehold titles. Nowadays, it's a mandatory for you to change the land use from maybe agriculture to residential. And of course, there are a lot of happenings out there in the industry. Of course, many of our diaspora people are asking, do I really need to invest in Kenya? And whom can I trust? And I'm so happy that many companies, even some are in this particular forum, they are able to go to diaspora. And that's what we do for us at Optiven. We literally go to where the customer is. Somebody says that don't wait for the customer to come to you. Go to where the customer is, and you've been able to deliver titles to these particular people, talking to them on one-on-one. And I'm happy to say that we have empowered, enabled hundreds of diasporians to own homes, to own land, to own value-added plots right here in Nairobi metropolis. And I'm happy to say that the trust issues has been a big issue, especially for diaspora, not only to organizations, to their own relatives, you know, and they are not able to trust even their fathers and mothers. We have had stories whereby people have lost money to their own sisters, their own brothers. But I always advise them, because they are my friends, that every time you transact, always trust and verify. You know, check out, take your time, obey your intuition, and of course, involve professionals. If you are doing a home, don't just pick your cousin. Your cousin come out to do a home for you. No. Get architects, get engineers that are competent, organizations that are registered. They have got directors that if something happens, you have a fallback. Of course, you cannot take your father to court. And of course, number 3, research. Nowadays, God has given us this internet. You can be able to search Optiven. Who are these people? How many years have they been in operation? And you can be able to tell the nature of the organization. And then finally, it's very, very important not to give up on investment. Maybe you invested, you lost, like George Washington. I personally lost money when I was starting. So don't just give up. You can come back again and say, let me give it a second trial. And who knows? You know, they say that success, for you to succeed, you have to fail a few times. So those who are listening, don't just give up. And of course, allow me to share with you why you should invest in Kenya. Kenya today, even amidst COVID, there is a lot of money in circulation. You know, the other day I was checking what the government is doing, especially on the proposed budget. They are releasing a lot of money towards infrastructure. Kazi Bitani, about 10 billion. They are releasing money in the education, and there's a lot of money in circulation. They are promoting people producing textiles internally. That means instead of us importing, people are producing locally, which ensures that money is circulating. So there's some kind of sectors that are really benefiting. And before I conclude, I'll share with you maybe 4 sectors that as a diasporian, you can be able to check and invest because money is already within those particular sectors. And of course, you are aware that we are working from home. So we have seen a lot of reduction, especially on transportation, the fuel. And then as I talk to you, I'm in the house and I've been working from the house. So there's a lot of happening within this COVID time. And of course, as a diasporian, this is the time to strike a deal because many companies are giving offers. Like us at Optiven, we are telling customers, just come, select a property. We give you 6 months interest free. And you're seeing a lot of response, especially from diaspora. Banks are giving moratorium. So very interesting. Maybe the time to borrow is now because banks give you either 6 months, 1 year, up to 2 years. Some industries are even taking 3 years. You don't pay a cent and you can be able to utilize that particular money to do something. Once again, I want to thank the panelists, the host of this particular program, Ephraim Mwaura, and keep up the good work. Chris Wamarwa, I value you, and of course our partner, Dr. Shem, and other real estate players. I've seen Cusco Julius, my friend, and the host, Jael. Asante sana, God bless you. We shall wait for the questions. God bless.
But let's come back to Nathan Wangusi. Doctor, I had a brief discussion with you, and you brought in a very, very interesting aspect in terms of shifting or just tilting the investment paradigm when it comes to the diaspora. Of course, we don't have enough time to go through all this. Please just introduce what you are talking about briefly in 3-4 minutes. But of course, subsequently now, just create a discussion around those issues. Go ahead, Dr.
All right, thank you everyone for hosting us. I'll try and keep this short, just so that everyone can also remember. I think when you say a lot, then you're lost in translation. So I came back from Kenya about 6 months ago because I started to shift priorities. I had lived in Kenya for about 6 years, working with a big tech firm, IBM, and like every other person, I also invested in land. And what I discovered was it's a very treacherous space, let alone for someone in the diaspora trying to build a home or buy property. I even had colleagues who had been scammed. So you buy shares in a land circle, and then you find either the land is encumbered or it's not even owned by the person who's selling. So there's a lot of scamming around land, and I'm really grateful that there's groups here who are trying to address that. The other engagements that I had while I was working in this tech firm at IBM, I led a team working on what is called the ease of doing business. So everything you're talking about in terms of digitization of the registry, that is work that my team did. So we did digitization of registries, which George has referenced. We did digitization. In fact, that was my personal project on company registration, as well as taxation. And that port clearance. So all those big digitization projects that the government has implemented was a team that I run. And I'll just share quickly some perspectives that I gathered through these experiences. That it is not easy to invest while you're outside let alone when you're within the country. While you're outside in the diaspora, it must be very difficult, especially not in what we are now talking about as immovable properties, that's real estate, but also in securities or shares within companies or the stock market, as well as in other types of investments. One view I want to present, and this is what Wamalo is talking about, is that, and I want to say this as a caution to not only the diaspora organizations, I think you already know this, but also those who are trying to tap that investment. There's a demographic shift that is going on. It's going on quite a lot in the US, where what are called baby boomers, most of whom are in this group today, are beginning to get into their retirement years. And I'm 37, so anybody younger than me does not have the same attachment to Kenya that Chris has or that Shem has. They've not had growing up experiences. They've not had investment experiences for them to want to start to buy property and other investments in Kenya. I know this because many of the young professionals that are my friends or my colleagues don't really have much in the way of discussion about investment in Kenya. And here's the catch. They're the ones who have the most, one, brain trust, because you have a whole generation of young Kenyans who came here as professionals. Wall Street is full of young Kenyans. If you go to big engineering companies, big tech firms, you have a lot of brain trust there and obviously a lot of resources to tap, but they don't have the same incentive that Chris, Shem, George has to start to invest back home.
Thank you very much, Nathan. These are real issues that we need to discuss. This is not to say that we discourage people who are planning to invest in real estate, but as the demographic shifts, as the world shifts, we, as the diaspora, we can't bury our heads in the sand. I know we are going to continue with this discussion. This is something that we really need to interrogate and really get to understand. Finally, I get to our sponsor, which is Jaila Cheng, is very important to me because I met her last year, and after a few discussions, I realized the kind of potential that she had. That time she was working for a big group, a finance group. She was she was in charge of the money, but even then she was talking about she's been working with the diaspora and she realized what the diaspora really need. And based on that, she started a very, very, very robust company. She's actually the person that we rely on to bring businesses to us. This is us, we just a publishing house. But for us to exist, we need groups like Optiven and Giles group. So she has a consortium of investors. And at this point, I'd like to invite her to talk to us briefly about Quest. And then, of course, you know, we want to start buying houses and plots today, right now. Go, Giles.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I think this is long overdue because I feel a lot of energy from the panel. As my brother George could not have enough time for the first time to air this, and we thank everyone for making it possible. Just as you said, I think as Giles, I've served in many levels, and basically my strong post or my strength is in sales and marketing solutions. Yeah, for Quest, we aim to deliver beyond our expectations, especially for our Reddit clients who are my brothers living abroad. And just like any other person has talked, there's a lot of trash issues, which for me, I had to encounter face-to-face with my client. I think I was sharing the platform with Optive and Brothers. So why we exist is because we know that the property development space is exponentially evolving, not only in Kenya, but in the world today. And this creates a huge demand and supply curve among the developers, realtors, buyers, and even any other person who'd want to invest. So Quest Investment has decided to bring in a team of experts to bridge this gap as a perfect link. And how do we do this? We have to partner, and with partnering, we have to know whom we want to bring on board. So as a company, I have my dedicated due diligence partner who asked actually to do for me independent search about this realtor How is the project? Is it clean? How is the title deed from onset? And this is really to help Quest come out clean as unique in terms of people can trust us. Just like any other business, you can be trusted by how you serve your people. So we run a seamless portfolio of experienced agents and agencies who are working with us. And by virtue of me having served before, I'm overwhelmed by the number of requests I get. But before I onboard, then I have to do what is required by the country, and even by me knowing that I want to partner with somebody who will not meander with the brand that we are building. So we do offer A to Z solutions in terms of the property sales, efficient conveyance process, which has been a big problem with the guys, even locally here. You can run around between lawyers and the project, and you realize that it's a waste of time, even in terms of even you acquiring finance and everything. But because of expertise we have and the partners that we have, we want to make this easy and seamless for each developer. But with this one, we work and liaison with each developer's legal chosen teams. And we do want to come out very clean. Beyond any other highlights that we ought to have done, only that the presentation has gone too inside, we were more prepared, was to give you just a bit of highlights, just in property alone. We have my friends like Nathan, who might not really think of home, but I tell them, time comes when you start thinking like us and the Wamalas, because you're a bit old. So when you reach that age, you realize, hey, I need to have gotten something home. So we have ready and developed houses. You just pay, and it's a house that you can give you rent immediately, or it's a house that can be yours. People come for holidays, and you realize, where do we even have to stay? You can't fit in your brother's house. You can't be in your auntie's house. You can't go to the SQ and you're used to in your life in abroad. So having something home is something that we really need to drive in and just offer the best that we can. We are also delivering through Quest and the partnership I have with realtors. I'm keen to offer a range of budgets or a range of products from budget housing to luxury options. As you've seen, I'll not go through because of time. You can go through what Wamalwa has in terms of our profile, and you realize that we are all over.
Thank you, Jael. And of course, these properties are going to be displayed during the show. This show is going to be on Facebook and on YouTube, and of course on KTN Live on Saturday. And
Yes.
And Jael is going to be with us next week, as even we speak with the ladies, the KNATS group.